sitting here recalling a time where I wasn't this version of myself, when I was putting my focus and power elsewhere instead of focusing on the origin story of that power and focus. What happens when you take education or knowledge and discipline and put them together with action? You have the power of practice. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Stacy Patrice, and I am here journeying with you today on this conversation about practice. One of the newest words in my language came when I started my yoga journey, and it was practice. Practice, 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 and all is coming. Practice, use your life as a practice. Do everything as if it were a practice. Start a practice. Teach a practice. Practice being something you don't yet feel you are. Practicing as a road to manifestation. Practicing as a road to actualization. But everything required a practice. Why? Why? Why do we need to practice everything in order to get to where we're going? And the answer is because you need that experience and that discipline and that laser focus with something in order to get to the place where you can see the fruits of what that created. So your practice is like your seed. Every year, you practice putting seeds in the ground in certain conditions with certain knowledge and information, certain timing. You put a seed in the ground and you expect for that seed to be fruitful and multiply. Every year, that is the promise of your practice. So you're not necessarily expecting there to not be a harvest. But you do understand that if your harvest is a little lighter in certain years than it is in others, that could be detrimental. So you try and put everything you know in on the front instead of waiting to see the result and be like, oh, I probably should have done this. That's not time or finance effective. It is actually a form of ignorance that we should all, seek to eradicate is waiting until something shows up to say, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. So that is why practice is important. A practice gets you in the game early and often to apply what it is that you're learning, what it is that you know, what it is that you are looking to see with focus and discipline so that you can see the kind of result that you envisioned and intended when you put those seeds in the ground. If you don't like the example of farming or agriculture or planting seeds, then let's just use, for instance, your life. Let's talk about the things that you do every day. What are your daily practices? The things you do every day that allow you to show up continuously as the person you are. We are responsible for our own energy, right? So if we are, do you have energetic practices? We are responsible not just for the way we look, but for the contents that are inside. So, what are you doing to make sure that that library is well stocked, rich, luxurious, and informative? If in fact we are the out picture of our practices, what are you looking at? When you look in a mirror, who are you seeing? And so I think the way we treat ourselves says so much about what we have to offer other people and also how we treat other people. When we are not being as loving to ourselves, that means it's not our practice. And then we meet other people who affirm the lack of practice that we have. And then we have to then figure out if we need to get rid of the people or maybe we need to get rid of the practice. The thing that we're practicing is not fruitful. It may be turning out a result for sure. It's in action, but is it the thing that we are seeking to experience? And so when you get past some of these, conversations around maturity and you move into the other echelon of your life, you start to see that your practices show a lot towards what your potential ever could be. Your practices are what you do regularly, and they are like the drops you put in the bucket that end up being a well. You have to be able to analyze whether your practices are working for you. And so I want to take this into a context around yoga because this is where I discovered the power of the practice. So in yoga, I was a person who never wanted to practice every day. I was like, it's unnecessary. I'm doing decent, right? I don't need to do this every day. And then one day I was like, so then why did you ever come to this practice? What was it about you coming over here to yoga that made you take this on? Like, did somebody force you? Did somebody say you had to? Is it a bet? What made you take this on? Because whatever that is, that's pointing to the reason why you needed the practice. And I was like, uh-huh, right. Like things you know, but you don't always think about in the moment when you're being stubborn and you don't want to apply discipline. In the moments where you don't feel like practicing, you try and justify it other ways, or at least I did. And so I was like, no, 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 no. I definitely am interested in the practice. I'm definitely good at the practice, whatever that means. But it was like, yeah, but I'm good at the physical part of the practice. How can I get better at the part of the practice that transforms me more than physically? Because what you're doing on your mat is a micro. It is a practice in the microcosm of things. It is you physically understanding what's going on with your body through real life in the moment proof. I could do that yesterday. Why can't I do it today? Or I haven't been able to do that. It is your real life proof happening. So then you're in these practices. You're in the asana practice, which is the physical postures. You're in the breath work, the pranayama. You're in the meditation, taking the senses inwards. So if you're doing these practices, what is that doing for your life? Because otherwise, then you could just be spinning your wheels, getting caught up in the pride and the ego of the practice. Oh, I can move my leg in this way. I can do a headstand. I can stand on my head for 10 minutes, right? But what is that practice doing for your life? You're training your body, which is valuable. You are allowing yourself to find balance in your physical. You are definitely going to be shifting your energy. All of those are valuable. But the power in the practice has to at some point translate to more than your place on the sticky and expand into your place in the world. So if you can't take what is happening on the sticky as the microcosm to know what to do into your world, then you know where you have to look, the macro. And this is where astrology comes in. You got to now look at the macro. Now the macro is going to be your teacher to help fill in that middle space, that gray area. I got the physical part. I know how to do that. But now I need the cosmic part, the original identity, the blueprint of what it is that I came here to do, be and experience and feel and see and sense. And I need to put those together to fill in those days in the middle, which I call your life practice. So your life practice is more than just this idea of something you do, a hobby over there. Your life practice is a system. And it is an intelligence system that is corresponding specifically to who you be, specifically to your identity. Without that, you are still in a practice that may not prove fruitful. So I'll use drinking as an example. Oh my gosh. From when I first discovered drinking all the way until I stopped drinking. It was something that just went with the lifestyle. I'm out, I'm partying, I'm social, I have a good time, I'm extroverted, I'm sensual, I'm all of these things. I kick it. I'm a good time. You know what I mean? I'm the live wire. I'm the spark that starts the party. What, right? You can see it. So what I ended up realizing is that, yeah, but drinking is in no way, shape, or form benefiting me. All of that I said was for other people. Pay attention. I'm the live wire. Well, is this a performance? What am I doing? Why do I need to be that for other people? And why do I need to drink to be that for other people? What am I trying to escape? What am I pulling away from? What part of my identity am I uncomfortable with? What feelings am I having that I'm not managing that makes picking up a cup of poison so powerful for me and the people around me? Why is that preferred? Mm-mm. So I got to the point where I said, you know what, actually? What would happen if I don't do this? This is how most things start in my life. What happens if I stop doing the thing that everyone else does? What happens if I disinvest? Or what happens if I decide to just not give that any more of my energy and my precious time, attention, and sacredness? And what you discover is that there's just a thing and it's neutral until you give it meaning. It's neutral. So if you're going to be investing meaning in something that you need to do it on a regular basis, whether it's every day, whether it's ever so often, whether it's always around everyone, if you're going to be doing that, you need some practices on a personal level that have you give the space to look at that. You need to be able to look at that and be like, you need a reflection practice. You need an emotional, energetic movement practice. You probably also would need a practice where you learn how to love yourself, a self affirming practice. And also, you still can use your power in the way that you did to put into that practice for other practices. So astrology is the map. I say this in almost every video. This is the way that you can look at how these things show up in your life, right? Now, ancestors, different people you love, they drink, they smoke, they do whatever. You might too, right? You don't have to live your life completely sober. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's not your path. And I'm not suggesting that you have to take on that path. What I'm saying is, have you elected to do something over and over again as a practice that disempowers you? Or maybe empowers you to other people's benefit, but not your own? Or maybe disempowers you to the point that you think that this limited scope is your power? Have you taken on something that does that to you over and over again until it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy? We all have points where we find this out in our lives, whether it's people and places and things we do and practices, where we start to do a thing that doesn't really benefit. So here is my suggestion of how to know from your cosmic map, your macro, what to do with your micro. So in astrology, of course, there's lots of yoga philosophy connected to astrology. They are sisters in that sense, but there's also another sister, and there's a sister of Ayurveda, right? Which to me in my life, before I learned about Ayurveda, it was, me deciding to be vegan. It was me taking an herbal approach to things and looking just at plants as a lifestyle. Now, plants is now a very in vogue lifestyle, but before it got to popularity, let's go back about maybe 20 years prior, it was something that I was feeling and sensing belonged with me. And then when I got into my yoga practice, everything just started snapping together. And then I found out about Ayurveda. And then when I found out about it, it made sense that my constitution, my ways of feeding myself, which is something you do the most often, is in fact scientific, is in fact the practice that you're doing that often is not contributing to your progress. And sometimes it's disempowering. Because if your goal is to attain a certain level of health and you're constantly doing things that are not that, then you have to ask yourself, and again, why is this what I'm doing? Again, you're not shaming yourself for what you're doing. You're inquiring of yourself, what is the power in it for you? And then as you start to see where your attention is, you start to understand why you're doing the thing you're doing. And again, I always say you got to love it before you can toss it out. You got to say, oh man, I love this, but I don't need this. You can't just go from, I hate this thing and I'm gonna try and get rid of it. It doesn't work that way. You gotta love it first because it's you. It's what you've chosen. It's what you've invested time and energy into. It's your power. So you have to know why you're using your power the way you are. And possibly instead of, trying to immediately discard it and heal it, you got to love on it and say, ooh, this came from so many years of me thinking X, Y, and Z. So many years of me feeling A, B, and C. So many years of people telling me one, two, and three. You know what I'm saying? So you get to that point where you start to understand why the thing is happening in your life, how you even got attracted to it. You start understanding your origin story a little bit better. But when you look at your chart, your chart is going to start to talk to you about your constitution. And your chart will start to talk to you about the elements that are present not only in the planetary scape, but in your body, like your specific map of elements, your specific constitution. That means whether you're super fiery or super chill or super ungrounded or any of these things, you'll start to see what that is. Then it'll even go a little bit further. It'll start to talk about, whether there is fortune, there's an abundance of fortune around you, or whether there are challenges that you're going to go through, like periods like this where you're going to constantly have to check things. Again, I say it all the time. If you got eighth, and 12th house placements, or if you've got Scorpio and Pisces placements, or if you've got placements that are not well aspected in your chart that are constantly causing, squares, constantly causing challenges and things of that nature, then you're definitely going to have more of those moments where you're like, okay, I have to bring something to a head in order to put a pause to it. And if you got a lot of fire in your chart, then it's going to be a lot of actions that you're going to take, which could cause more chaos and difficulty. But if you have a lot of earth in your chart, there could also be a lot of stubbornness that you will face because you don't literally want to move. You want to just stay where you are. Maybe you want to think about it all the time. You just want to think about it, but there's not a lot of action. So your elemental map is inside of your astral map. And your elemental map is going to talk about the things that you feel and need to do, and whether you are initiating or changing or adapting or what your style is, right? But then it gets even more interesting because in addition to your yoga practice and your Ayurveda and the things that belong with your body that can help remedy the things you're experiencing, and of course, this cosmic map that is happening, this big, beautiful cosmic map, then there is space. And the space that you occupy, not just with your physical body, but also your physical space. Your home is the sanctuary where all practices become possible. So if you're not paying attention to your home environment, then you probably don't feel like you can take on this potential and these possibilities because you don't have space for it. And I have met that many times in life as well. You're already at your capacity in space and you're not managing the energy of the space. So then your space becomes a trap. That's why I don't practice trap yoga. Your space becomes a trap. It becomes something that you are not managing and you're constantly drawing it into your life as the predominant voice. You're constantly saying, this is my environment. This is how I live. This is how I get it. But how often are you cleaning that up and changing that so that you get to the point where what it is that's in your environment is a great reflection of you? You can look at your environment and tell what's going on with you at any period of time. How much mindfulness and thought you give to where you place things, where you put things, the exterior, how things are organized, if things are organized. Oh my God, this has been a lifelong thing for me. The difference you feel when you walk in the kitchen and everything is clean and you can just pull out the cutting board and cook, and all you're responsible for is what you're doing right now. You can clean off that cutting board, that knife, and that skillet or that pot or pan, and you're done. Versus when you're trying to cook an amazing meal, you got dishes in the sink soaking, you got stuff on the range, you got stuff on the counter, you got a couple of things in your room, and on top of that, you can't even find the utensil you're looking for to cook. And that's why people say don't cook in a dirty kitchen because chaos begets chaos. And so this is about the home level. And these are the yogic sciences that I am the most happy about. It's the power of a practice. It's me yoking my physical asana practice and the microcosm that I experience on the sticky through my physical and energetic self all the way up to the macrocosm I experienced with Jyotish, where I start to learn in sidereal astrology what is actually happening in the sky and how that's reflecting what I'm feeling and sensing because I can feel that. And understanding what my map is saying to me at different points in time about why things are occurring the way that they are, and perhaps what I can do to spiritually remedy them through the art of practice and ritual. And then knowing that a lot of those practices between my mat and the sky map, mat and map, are going to be happening in what I'm feeding myself on all levels, what I'm digesting on all levels, and then also the environment or the sanctuary that I place myself in. This is how these four align. These are the practices that I work with and work on. And so this has meant everything from helping people to understand what's going on with their physical body and how they can be better to their physical bodies, as well as the practices they can do to tone and to tune their bodies. And then, of course, looking at their star map and understanding the language around that so they can start to understand a bigger picture. If for some reason in their physical existence they can't see it, it's a blind spot, you start to open that up and get language around it and understanding about it, and things start connecting. Just like on your map, as you practice, things start connecting. And then when you have those connections, as above, so is below connections, spiritual to physical connections, now it's time for the soul to come into the room. Oh, yes. Now it's time to be on the path where the soul starts to pick and select. It's this environment, not that one. It's this feeling and not that one. It's these people and not those. They all can exist, but the soul is the ultimate selector in your willpower, in your wheelhouse. Not the only selector, but is the ultimate selector of those willful things. But your soul is also choosing some things that you will feel less willful about, which might be why you're even on this path to begin with, which might be why you're listening to this video right now, because your soul then also presented some pictures for you and showing you some things you didn't want to see. Happens to all of us, happens to the best of us, and that's why we're the best, right? That's why we are learning to be the best, is because our soul is showing us these pictures that say, hey, take another look at this. Oh, I can get better in this. Oh, I have bested this level of my life as I know it, but I ain't even looked over here. So I can't get happy about, besting this when in fact and in reality, I haven't created these other things. So this is what the practice is about. This is the power of the practice. Let your soul start choosing those elements and start trusting them, because that's what you can do to help you be better in your practice and keep your power there. Trust it. If it says not these people, it's not these people. If it says not tonight, it's not tonight. If it says not these places, you don't have to worry about that being laziness because you're not saying it. It's saying it to you. It's saying, I'm trying to show you this is not it. It'll take you a while to get it, but I'm trying to show you this is not it. And so the creator and the creative are working in unison for your understanding. But if you don't put any practice into place, then you will find yourself feeling out of place. You will find yourself living in the lackluster life and not having the discipline to leverage what you know into how you live. And so, yes, I do consultations around this. Yes, I teach courses around this. Yes, I curate experiences around this. Yes, I live this. Yes, I am still a work in progress, just like you. Yes, I love to share what it is. This is why I'm here. I love to share these things because I think there are nuances that a lot of us could pay attention to, but perhaps there's something else in the foreground in the physical that's distracting us more, that stops us from looking. But let that sleeping giant wake up. Let that sleeping giant wake up, because what's going to give to you, what it is going to give to you, is the power that you know you have in proper context, because you would have already practiced it. So when you stay ready, y'all know the rest. When you stay ready, y'all know the rest. It becomes very magnetic. It becomes the moment of, you know, it's when you become a luminary. It's when you know that your practice and the things that you're practicing are specifically speaking to you, and you're getting information from them, and you're popping up pictures and you're creating and moving forward, and it's grounded. It's not in the sky, it's not in your mind. You have real life experiences, it's grounded. And the more that you practice that, the more fruits you will start to benefit from. And also, keep in mind, this moving universe of ours is constantly aligning, moving, orbiting, realigning, reappearing, changing configurations. That is also fructifying things. It's also creating fruits. Some of those fruits you might not love, but it'll get you where you need to go. It's also creating fruits. Life is legend. And the more you understand that from your map, the easier it is for you to follow suit and become the luminary you were designed to be. Thank you for listening. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and absolutely comment. I'll see you in the comments. I look forward to your unfolding. And in the meantime, peace and love. Big love.